All right, let's click and drag him to reverse the direction here, and click and drag him. All right, so I'm just going to start drawing out a shape. Now remember, I can come back and fix this later, so I'm not too super worried about it. And again, maybe I come in here and just make this fit. So again, the reason I want that bright line is I want to be able to see where I've drawn. I'm going to draw another one just for his ears. I might just do something simple like this. And again, I'm not going to worry about making his ears exactly right because A, I'm not trying to draw him in a realistic form. I'm just trying to draw a person. And the other thing is that sometimes you might think, oh, that makes sense, but it was something weird, but when it's in silhouette, it's going to look like he's got this weird growth coming off his ears. So I'm kind of just using him for a guide. We're not making him into Spock or anything like that. So I'm using him as a guide. So I just want to make sure that I go, okay, I know where the ears go. Because again, I'm not an artist. I don't know these things, right? I have to just kind of play with that and say, okay, that doesn't look so good, but maybe if I were to draw like this, that looks decent. Okay, so now I've got myself an ear. And here's something else I do. I'll draw across here, and as I build layers, I'll lock all the layers but the one I'm working on. So I can always do a Command or Control A to do a select all, and then I'm just going to flip these two. And that's generally what I do as I draw, as I just look and go, okay, that looks good. I can see where those didn't line up really well, so I'm going to probably have to move this guy a little closer in, just to make sure that I don't have that weird gap that I could see there. And again, I don't care that his ear's stuck out here. This looks like an ear to me. That's fine. So I'm going to select everything again and flip that back so I just have a stroke and not a fill at all. So I'm always flipping back and forth between the strokes and the fills. So let's draw that and draw that. And I can always come back and fix that later. Remember, I can use the direct selection tool, and I can grab this handle and just play with that until it gets exactly right where I need it to be. Any questions so far on what I've gone over, or we're just going to draw? If you have a question, grab the mic. And
would you ever have to use the shape builder tool to, say, consolidate what you drew around his ears with his face?
I could use the shape builder tool for that, yeah. Especially if I didn't want to just move it, I liked where it was, and I wanted to do the shape builder. By dragging it across, it will actually bridge the gap between this. Yep. Yeah, so I just use the whole arsenal of tools that I have. As I go along and I draw and I think, oh, I like that, but I really wanted his ears to be exactly, smooth. I might just come over here and use an ellipse tool and say, that's what I want my ear to look like that. It depends on how stylized, again, I want this to look. Maybe I'm just like, oh, I like the way that ear looks. Let's copy and paste that. And maybe we just rotate it as well and make it a little bit smaller. So come in here and rotate it, and maybe we shrink it up a little bit, and we've got that ear as well. Right? So I might just do that because it's quicker instead of trying to draw out the shape. Again, for me, I might take something like this and go, well, I want to make it so that I only have 5 colors and I want everything to be very angled. So I might just do straight lines. But again, I'm still using that as a guide of how I would put it together. So I would take those and maybe I'll group those together because I know those are going to be like I need them. So I group them. I tend not to do the shape builder unless I'm sure I like it because once you do it, you're kind of stuck with that shape. Whereas I can ungroup this and I could just change the ear and not have to use the actual points on the path to do that. Questions on?
So quick question from the internet. Kavini is asking what your thoughts are on using image trace versus the method you're demonstrating right now.
Image trace is nice. Let's actually show you that. The problem with image trace is that it's going to be as detailed or not detailed as you want it to be. So let me I'll just create a new document. I'm going to place that same guy in there. Actually, I'm going to use, I have a lower res one I want to use, I think, just because that one is so high res. Actually, I don't actually have the lower one. All right, so we'll use this one. And I'm going to just drag them small there. And I can go ahead and by doing image trace, I actually telling how many paths I'm going to have. So what that is I'm going to come down here under Object and choose Image Trace. I'm going to choose Make, and it might take a while, so we might have to see. It's going to think about it. And what it's doing is it's going to look at it, and it's going to create vector lines. Now here it made it black and white. Let's actually not do that. So I'm going to come over here to my Image Trace options that are here, and let's say we want it to be 16 colors. Actually, let's do 6 colors. All right, so we'll say 6 colors. It's going to take all those and it's going to make them fit into 6 colors. So it may or may not give us what we're looking for, but it's gonna vectorize everything. If you do one that's really high that has a lot of colors and a lot of paths, you can get a photo that looks like a photo when it's traced, although it's made up of all these lines and segments. But the problem is, if I want to change any of that, it might make up a group of lines. It might do like a gradient, and it's going to do it as a bunch of different colored lines. And when I want that gradient to change, I have to change each of those individual lines that are there. So for me, this is more of a, I'm creating something and just using it as a tool as opposed to trying to get something that looks exactly like this. I've also done it where I've done a posterize, I don't know how to pronounce it, in Photoshop. And so I've gotten it down to like 8 colors and I bring it in and it's great. But what it sees as something different, I don't see as something different. So it looks photographic here. But it's actually made up of all these individual lines. As soon as I expand that to be the individual objects, I can look at that and see that I now have all these different individual items that are here. But if I decided I wanted this shirt to be a color, I can't, because it's made up of all these individual lines. So I would have, I've got gray here, I've got a gray here. It's all these different shades of gray making up this shirt. But what I wanted was to change the whole shirt color to something else, and I can't just select one item and say change that to something else. So that's where actually doing the image trace and vectorizing it it's an entirely different thing. It certainly has its place, I use that as well, but I also want to change it so it doesn't look like the photo. Maybe it's a photo that, there's some t-shirts that I've made from a character that's on TV, and I've used the photo as a starting point, but I've made my own stylized version of it. But obviously I need to make it different enough that, it's like everybody knows it's that character, but it's not a photograph of that character. And so for me, changing this would take forever just to change the color of his pants. And also look what happens in a couple of the spots. It doesn't end at his pants. You think, oh, here's his pants, but it also includes half his jacket because that's how it saw the color. So if I want to change it, I can't change just his pants to do that. I could do the thing where I'd put a line across and divide it and then change it and change it. And I've tried that, but that is crazy making at times. So I think if you're going to make any changes wholesale like that, doing this doesn't help. If you just want to see what it ends up with color-wise, it's a good process to use.
Yeah, it pretty much gives me an anxiety attack thinking about changing all this.
Exactly. And actually some of the stuff that I've started with, I started that way and realized it's never going to work this way. I'm just going to need to draw it. But of course, drawing it, then it doesn't look as realistic as it did when you traced it. So there's definitely a trade-off for that.
And over the years, I've had clients say, "Oh, well, why don't you just use that filter?" And it's just like,
yeah.
Well, it's not. It's a little more complicated.
Right.
Now, could you use the other tool that you had earlier, the tool, the drawing tool, help me out here, the special drawing tool, the other drawing tool where you were doing the blobs and the.
Oh, the blob brush one, or the shape builder where I put them combined together. Shape builder.
Shape builder.
Yes.
Could the shape builder help with a situation like that?
Where with the trace that we've had there?
Yeah, with the live trace.
Not really. I mean, it could. It's just that it doesn't see objects like when you're building them. You see them as an object. It sees this because I told it 6 colors. It's only looking at the shades.
Right.
And so it sees this as an object. I can combine these 2 objects, but this is not an object in my mind. This is just, they all share the same color.
Yeah.
So it's, the difference is like when you look at a photo and you say, oh, remove the background, you don't understand why Photoshop can't just remove a background, because you know what the background is, even though it's all different colors, but it has no way to know unless you tell it what the boundary is of a background. So it's the same kind of thing. It sees everything that fit within whatever range it came up with as an object. So I could definitely use the Shape Builder tool and drag this across if I selected these items. Now keep in mind, these are all grouped together, so it's going to want to select everything. But I could drag this across and go, sure, combine those 2 right there, and it's going to build a really massive shape. And that's going to take forever. We're not going to do that. But I can see as I roll over, I'm like, oh, that's a shape, and that's a shape, and that's a shape. But to me, those aren't really shapes. Those are just giving it some tonal quality.
Cool. So if you want it done right, do it right.
I think so. I mean, it depends what it is. I mean, like I said, if you're taking a photo and you just want to make it, the whole point is to vectorize it so that you have, I've done ones that are really complex and take forever to trace, but it looks like the photo, but I can size it and I don't lose resolution because of it. So there are definitely some trade-offs for it. This is more if you were doing like I don't want to say cartoons, like I said, but it's more like just a comic-y look, or it's a certain stylized look to it at all. I'm certainly not trying to make anything photorealistic here. That's what photos are for.
Right. Exactly.
Well,
Cool.
thank you.
So, yeah, all right. Cool. Are we good on questions? Or I'm going to show a little bit more of this, and then we'll be wrapping it up. So, what I do when I do this is one of the things that I think about is like the jacket. The jacket is going to give me fits, and so I had to do something special with the jacket. So actually, well, let's do the next thing I would have done, which for me, I would do the neck. So we draw on the neck, and then I think, okay, I think the shirt will be next. So the shirt is tucked inside the pants, right? So now I'm thinking of layers of clothes. I'm always trying to think how this fits together. I think, okay, the shirt, and I figure the shirt is going to be covered by these other layers. So the shirt I can be pretty inaccurate with. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to make sure I have a stroke that I can see, so I'll make it a nice pink or something. And again, it's going to look terrible. I actually have one, I think that I have one in progress here. This one here. That looks pretty bad, right? That is not what I want to end up with. That's what it looks like though when I'm drawing, because I just have these different bright colors so I can see the difference and know what layer they're on. And then I filled them all so I could see, and this was really rough. I didn't do a really good job of it, but I just wanted to see how that was going to look. And I actually did that just to see if my hat, because I want to have this little color in behind his head. I just wanted to see if that was all going to work piecewise, having what's in front. If you notice, his holster's sitting outside his coat, and so is his shirt, because I made his jacket in the back on the layer. Well, what I really need to do is I need to have the jacket be on two separate layers, because if we look over here, we can see that at the top of the image, his jacket is kind of in front of everything. It's on top of the shirt and on top of the top of his pants. But underneath the gun belt, you notice his jacket is behind everything. So I can't have something be ahead of and behind. So what I did is I drew the jacket, and I drew the top half very accurately because it's in front. And so I need to show where everything is. But on the back half, I came down here and drew underneath, and then I just drew across his legs because it's going to be behind the legs layer. So I was a lot less accurate at the bottom. And then what I did is I had this whole item, and then I did the divide. So I took a line after I drew the jacket, and just went, okay, this is in front, and this is in front, this is in front, and this is in front. And then I had to kind of come in here. I had to zoom way in because his arm needs to be on the top half of the layer, but this down here is behind. And I basically did that. I took this line, and I took the jacket that I had drawn and used the Pathfinder and did divide, and I sent half the drawing to a new layer that was above, and that's the top half of the jacket, and this one got sent to the back. So I'll show you how I did that. Let's come over here to the finished guy, and let's look at the layer. Let's turn him on. And if you notice, I have coat top and coat bottom, and they live in different places. So I drew it on one, then I divided it. So let me draw it on a separate image here. If I were to do that to this coat, let's say, and if you notice, this coat is actually in several pieces. But let's say I wanted to divide this coat across the middle. So right now, I'm going to take this pen, and I would divide it where I needed it to go. I'm just going to do a nice straight line. I'm going to take that straight line and the coat that needs to be split in half, and I'm going to use the Pathfinder tool, and I'm going to tell it divide. So I'm going to come down here and say divide, and then I'm going to ungroup that, and I'm going to take this item. That's the piece I want to send. That's to the front. I want to send this one to the back. So to do that, I come over here, and I've got it selected. Where am I? Down over here. If you notice, I've got this little proxy that tells me something is selected there. If I deselect it, it goes away. So I can take this, and I can move this to a whole nother layer. I can move it to the hat layer if I want to. Let's move it onto the hat layer. So I'm just grabbing the little proxy over here and dragging it to another visible layer and drop it in here. So now it's on this layer. So that layer was back behind. The hat layer is lower than the other one. So you notice it went back behind the pants. Here's the pants. Right, I moved that down. Does that make sense? That I split it in half, and I sent the portion that I needed to be behind to a lower layer. I could add it to a new layer if I wanted to, which is what I did in my finished piece, is I created a whole new layer called coat bottom, and I sent that separate half down there. Does that make sense? Okay, let's draw a little bit more. We'll come over here to the guy we're working on here. Actually, is that the one? Yeah, that's the one we're working on here. And I'm going to delete that line right now. Delete that. And I'm going to just come down here and draw the boots. Now I decided the boots were going to be in front, and these boots are not cowboy boots, so I had to make some changes to that as well. I didn't want this nice rounded, I just made it a little bit pointier, and I did something different to the top of the boots. If we look at that, I kind of make them look cowboy boot looking. So again, I was just taking what I like to call artistic license and do what I needed to with that. So as I drew those boots, I'm just going to come in here and I just made a nice arch. And I click, and I just kind of came down. I kind of made it really rough, but I do know that I needed the heel as reference because I can't draw shoes, like feet, especially when they're coming at me. The whole perspective thing, I can't handle that. So I just came in here and just played with the direction of the pen tool. Right, just come in here, click over here, and I just kind of drew that out as needed. So have that, and then again, I switch the fill and stroke, and I think that looks like a decent start to a boot, So I put that on top. That's the top layer. So I just make sure that everything is layered exactly as I need. Now, if you notice, I drew this right on the face one. I didn't really want to do that. I wanted it on its own layer. I can always change that at the last minute. If I say, oh, I did that wrong, it meant to be on its new layer, I'm going to come here and say, create new layer. It automatically throws a layer on top. And I can take this item that's here. I would select both of them if I'd drawn both of them. And again, grab this little proxy that's here and just drag it onto the new layer. So now it's on its own layer. You notice the color changed as well. So now that layer's here, and that layer, the boot layer, goes on top. It would at least need to go on top of the pants layer or whatever's back behind. So again, I just start drawing. I think about how things are layered together, and then I try and look at what's going to be the problem in that. And for me, it was the coat was the biggest problem. I took some other artistic licenses. I didn't want to draw both guns, especially at that angle. I'm thinking that gun sticking out isn't going to look like a gun. Keep that in mind, too, if I'm going to do something where I'm just doing not a lot of detail, just shapes, basically, is what I'm building, is that when I look at that, when I look at a gun here, I can see, okay, that's a holster and that's a gun. That at that angle doesn't look that great. Do I want to try and draw one by myself, or I just looked at it and went, well, he has a gun. That's all I really want to show is that he's a cowboy, so he doesn't need both of those that are in there. So I just didn't draw that second one at all. So then when I'm done, I just start, I've got all these wacky colors, right? So I had this one here, and I just say, okay, now it's time to add some real color. So I just start, I would lock every layer. So I'm going to option, sorry, it's not, let me do, I'm going to just click every layer, locked, and I would start with the one I'm working on, start with the face. And I would do Command or Control A to select everything. And then I'm going to go ahead and give that a color, whether or not I'm going to use a swatch or I'm going to use the color builder. So then I start picking out a color that's here. I want to actually make it, I want the fill to be that color. Right, I want to make sure everything is there. That's weird. Why is it not? Let me do that. Let's grab this guy here. I don't know what else I had selected, probably a guide or something weird. All right, so I fill that in. I think, okay, that looks good. I like that color. And I go on to the next item that's on there. So I choose the next layer. I think, okay, let's change his boots. I don't like the boots. Let's unlock those. And let's come over here to the swatches, and we'll choose a color for his boots. And we do select all. And make sure everything's the one color. And then we say, okay, let's make those. And of course, we end up with a lot of brown because it's cowboys. So everything's brown. But I just go ahead and play with that until everything looks, until it's a little closer like that guy there. So I was just able to choose the colors. And everything on its own layer is really nice. If I decided, oh, maybe his, he doesn't have suspenders. Maybe I don't like the suspenders that are there. I can come in here and just turn those off if they're on their own. Right now I have them under pants, but if you notice, on my pants layer, I have the pants and the two individual suspenders that are there. They're each individual objects, and on each layer, every object that you draw becomes its own item as well, and that's just there by default. So I can say, oh, I don't like the suspenders, let's turn those off, and they're just gone. Now, when I do that, I have to look and say, well, I assumed that the pants were going to be covered by suspenders. I have a little weird thing I have to fix here. So I just click with my direct selection tool, click on the path, and I can start moving things around. Let's actually click on this guy, and it doesn't want me to just choose the path. There we go. I can just fix it that way, right? And because he's underneath the coat, it went away. I just moved it underneath, and all was good. Does that make sense? That's kind of how I draw cheating using a photo. Cheating with drawing with Erica Gamet. That's what we're going to How to cheat and pretend you know how to draw. I like it because I actually like this kind of style. It's just something I like to do. I like that all the stuff I draw now, nobody has faces. It's just kind of a weird sci-fi thing, maybe, I don't know. But I like it because it's kind of a look and it's kind of a style I've developed. But I could never draw this if I just were to just draw plane. I couldn't even probably get the angle of the face right. You know, I don't know. For me, cheating with a photo is the way to go.
It's not cheating.
It's not cheating.
It's not cheating.
Artistic license. And I did
really
forget
is.
to tell you that the tools that are underneath here, under the width tool, there's some other things that are under here, like warp tool, bloat, scallop, all those. I like to call those tools of random artistic genius because every once in a while I have come up with something and just make a shape. I did forget to show you this. I'll just show you the shape really quick. If I just take this item and I use these under the width tool, let's do, crystallize is good. I'm just going to come in here and I just randomly drag it across. You don't have much choice. I'm just going to do that and ta-da, there we are. I'm Picasso right there. I don't know. So I just like those tools. You don't really get much control over what's coming out of there, but sometimes you just need some really crazy stuff to pep up your drawings. So. Any questions on any of the layers or how I drew the items? Yeah, no?
Yeah,
From the internet.
Everyone's loving it.
Good.
Like, yeah, they're responding to the education, and you know it makes them think a little bit outside the box. We were just chatting. Vector is very popular right now. This type of art, and it's also you can scale it as big as you want.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
So once you create something,
it's independent of resolution. So yeah. And that's the great thing. I can make this and I could blow it up really huge and just, yeah. So I have a photo to start with that I am tethered by resolution.
Right.
And I can make that. And that's why I said we're doing the image trace is also handy because if you do it really detailed, it looks like a photo, but you can scale it up. But if I do this for sure, then I can just scale it up and I don't have any loss of resolution in that. So, and yeah, with the whole flat design that's, you know, kind of becoming the big thing now.
Exactly.
That is getting, you know, which is good because I could never figure out how to do that nice little beveled glass look in Photoshop. Never could figure it out. Good. Let's go back to flat design. I got that covered.
and it was a great demonstration for that, especially the cowboy. That was that's a beautiful, simplistic, very Eastern, like a Japanese style of art. And,
right, exactly.
That pop art, and it's just really cool.
I totally knew that. That was
Did you know?
that's what I was going for.
Well, it's great that you brought those two things together, right? The art and the drawing tools of how to do that.
Yeah.
A couple of things I learned along the way was like that little button down at the bottom where you could draw inside of something.
Yes, or behind is actually, and I forget it's there a lot. I draw and then I send it back behind when I realize that you can actually say draw behind, so you're drawing, but it's already back there where it needs to be. And I forget to click those buttons a lot. I forget they're down there.
I know.
It's like the basement, you know, you forget it's down there, you get down there, there's actually a lot of cool stuff down there, but you haven't actually gone to explore that, so.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well,
Love it.
What a great day. You know,
Absolutely.
I mean, this was a fantastic capper because we've been learning so many things all day, but when it comes down to like creating art in Illustrator, that's always like that's some of the best stuff.
That's the fun stuff.
Yeah, definitely for sure.
Everybody go play.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Now go play, you guys.
That's how you learn.
It is how you learn, and that's why we're here.
Yep, that's right.
So, you guys, I want to thank everybody who was in our classroom today. You know, we had William this morning, and then Jason Hoppy, and then Erica. I want to thank them all for just such an amazing job. I want to thank you guys out there on the internet for joining us today. Great questions. We really appreciate it. So, thank you to everybody. But before we hit the road, I have a prize to give away.
Hooray.
And we are giving away the Oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
So this morning, William demonstrated CAD tools. So it's all the power of CAD directly in Illustrator. So it's a plug-in power exchange. It's a $299 value, and that's going out to Andrea Swingley. And she quoted Erica saying, I call the Pathfinder panel the hunt and peck panel because I don't know what these things do.
That's excellent. She's actually somebody I know. She lives up in Alaska, so that's amazing.
Cool.
Excellent.
Oh, fantastic. Well,
He was listening.
Andrea, yeah, I mean,
Good.
and that's you guys, that is just great advice. Hunt and peck. Like, you're not going to destroy anything in Illustrator. That's what undos are for.
That's right.
So just go ahead and do something, and then click undo, and you can go backwards, and you'll be good to go. So, we want to thank William and Power Exchange for the generous prizes that they've given us today, and we want to thank you guys as well for entering.
Yeah, thanks for being with us the last couple of days, everyone out there. This is day 2. We're at the end of day 2 of a 5-day it's kind of like a conference or something, right? We have all these awesome instructors coming in from all over, and we have a full week of education. So you're watching us for free while we're live all week long. That's over 40 hours of content, 30 classes, and 11 instructors. So it's been pretty awesome. So much more to go. I wanted to remind everybody out there that there is the option to upgrade your watching experience. You can basically get unlimited anytime access to any of these classes all week long for $299. And actually during the live event, then it is only $199 for all of that content. So if you're somebody who's thinking about purchasing a couple of these classes, it might make sense to just buy now, get the whole week, and be able to watch at your own pace or whenever you have time. So there's also an option to purchase the individual courses for $59 each or $49 if you buy before Saturday. So look for that Upgrade Now button below your video screen right now, and give it a click if you're thinking about it.
And you know, one of the awesome things that just kind of occurred to me, we're only in day 2.
I know.
And it seems like, you know, we've covered already so many things. So I mean, what a great price for all that content. I mean, we're not even halfway yet.
Well, yeah, and it's hard to set aside your whole week
Yeah.
to watch all of this. We all have lives, right?
Exactly.
So it's kind of nice to have that anytime access thing. So.
Exactly. And speaking of day 3, which is coming tomorrow, we will see you guys here at 9 o'clock. But let me give you a little heads up. You know, well, we've got Erica coming back for 2 classes tomorrow. We got Jason Hoppy coming back for Acrobat, and a first-timer, Jane Nelson, is going to be teaching tomorrow.
Jay.
And
he's going to be great.
And then a full channel of Janine Warner, who is fantastic. She's going to be doing all the web stuff. So you guys, really another action-packed day tomorrow. We're going to be starting at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So hopefully we'll see you here. Join us then. Thanks.
Start with a simple idea. Think more, drink coffee. Stop thinking, stop talking, start doing. Hatch a design, kill the design. More coffee. Design something original. Okay, not that original. This original. Now it's time to make something. Do it again and again. That's good. Pick out the suits. Call in the creatives. Call in the photographers. Call in the nerds. Not those nerds. Those nerds. Blow off lunch. Blow off dinner. Blow off weekends. Sleep. Okay, maybe not tonight. More coffee. Build a prototype. Lay it out. Design it. Tweet it. Start over. Build another prototype. Lay it out. Design it. Love it. That's good. Kick out the suits again. Why? Because they lead to compromise. And compromise leads to this. Okay, back to it. More coffee. Give it to multimedia. Give it video. More video. Never too much video. Make it mobile. Give it larger spreads. Bigger. No, bigger. Make it free. Uh-oh, the finance guys. You can't do that. Kick out the finance guys. Get it online. Tweak, 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 tweak. Stop. Launch it worldwide. Call the judges. Call the marketing team. Win awards. Get real photographers. No, 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 no. Yes, she's perfect. Create a groundbreaking magazine. It's that easy.